Alright everyone, link in the description. It's a YouTube video actually purporting to show at the October 10th rally that took place in DC. Ilhan Omar and Tim Mynett actually. Ilhan Omar, the Minnesota representative, the far left individual, sort of parties with AOC and Tlaib and these others, part of the Gang of Four, our own homegrown socio-communistic movement here in the United States, and then Tim Mynett, who's the dude that she was cheating on long-term, and then she's dumped her husband for him, and apparently he's dumping his spouse for her, or something. I guess that's the allegation. There's a lot of allegation here. It's one of those situations where there's a 99% chance that the allegation is absolutely true, which is that this is indeed Omar herself at an Antifa rally. But you got to be careful because there are a couple of possibilities that could explain the situation that aren't quite that. The first possibility is that you've got someone who looks exactly like Tim Mynett right next to the camera, by the way, unmasked at the time. Same glasses, same facial structure, same nose, same eyes, everything looks like him. And then there happens to be a person behind him, following him, allegedly, that looks exactly like Ilhan Omar with face covering. Now, of course, the fact is that with Ilhan Omar, she has a tendency to wear the hijab anyway, the head covering. She wears some sort of a headscarf that's different from some others that I've seen. I'm not sure. She's from initially Somalia, if I remember correctly. This must be traditional sort of head garb there. It looked like she had a burqa on that just had a face covering. Now, since you can't see her whole face, you can't be sure that this is Ilhan Omar. And there's really the sticking point, because if it's just Tim Mynett at an Antifa rally, nobody gives a fuck. That being said, it looks enough like him, and this individual topically looks enough like Ilhan Omar, and they're the kind of people who you would think of hanging out at an anti-Trump rally, whether on the Antifa side or on just the regular marchers side, that it does make sense. The other possibility, and this was pointed out to me, and I'll get into why I don't think this is the case and why I think it's more nefarious than that. And by the way, I'm giving a lot of credence where it's not due. I realize that I'm stretching the logic kind of thin. I'm not trying to defend Ilhan Omar because I think she should be removed from office anyway for her various problems. That being said, legal purposes, you have to say alleged some of the time. You don't want no problems, especially with people who have deep Soros pocket money behind them. You got to be you got to tread carefully because they have a lot of influence on tech platforms too. Again, allegedly, of course. The other possibility is that they were there for the march, and this is out of context in the sense that they were just there to be like Drumpf bad, Orange Hitler, and the normal, innocuous, regular far-left stuff that we hear. Like 40% of the country parrots this stuff, so it's not a big deal. They're not, throwing their piss bottles at people. They're just saying, make Donald Trump again, and stupid shit like that they think is catchy and meme-worthy. And then Antifa comes in, and they huddled off to the side because they're like, well, shit, we don't want to be part of a physical confrontation. I don't think that would be good for your next congressional run. The problem is this. Antifa is a recognized criminal and terroristic organization depending on which state you're in. New Jersey, and I think a couple others, recognize them as a literal terrorist organization. Several states recognize them as a criminal gang. Ilhan Omar, fraternizing in any way with such a group, may breach some sort of House rules. She's in the House of Representatives. The rules of decorum and conduct that people in Congress are supposed to abide by in public are different from the normal population because these people are taxpayer funded. So the general understanding is on a topical, behavioral, just cultural and political level, they're supposed to behave differently because they're supposed to be astute and solemn and represent our interests. Yeah, right, like they've ever fucking done that anyway. But beyond that, there are actual physical rules that they can get, potentially slapped on the wrist and talked down to by the Speaker of the House. They can potentially be suspended from their role for a while. They can get kicked out of Congress, actually. They can be removed from the House of Representatives physically. It'd be funny if this happened. The problem with having any sort of public awareness of one of these situations is that the big tech firms aren't going to front this kind of video. And it's just not going to happen. Corporate media outlets aren't going to report on it. Hell, Fox would be a hard sell to get them to even topically cover this footage. So what are you left with then? you're left with the extremely powerful alt media that nonetheless is more fractious. You've got a corporate media run by 5 or 6 companies that all collude with one another. It's easy for them to spread a story around. In 15 minutes, they can get it to go viral worldwide. The alt media is bigger. It has a lot more personality. It has a lot more fans and a lot more hardened and ardent a fan base, but it's more split up into different groups. Little groups of people according to politics and even age demographics, certainly gender, geography, although less these days because of the internet. And so it's harder to popularize such a story. That's why alt tech is so important. That's basically the breeding ground for the next generation of organization among these various sub-syndicated alt media personalities. When I look at this, I would say, in my opinion, I believe that this is probably Tim Mynett and Ilhan Omar. I have a feeling they were probably there in the general rallying sense, but I don't think Ilhan Omar is the kind of person that has a problem with Antifa, and I can't imagine she was covering her face and running off to avoid being punched by the evil anti-fascists. No. Antifa loves people like Ilhan Omar. She's a self-described far leftist. She's either a socialist or a social democrat, depending on who she's talking to. She basically believes in the same malarkey they do. And apparently she likes to go to political rallies the same way. I don't see why they would have a problem with her. Maybe they'd have a problem with Mynett because he's a white male, but I mean, he's dating Ilhan Omar, again, allegedly, or something. She's leaving her husband for a reason. Supposedly predicating this months before she meets Mynett and they're screwing or doing whatever. You put 2 and 2 together, you can probably form a pretty good opinion of what likely happened and the timeline of events. And insofar as this rally goes, I don't think that Ilhan Omar goes to Antifa get-togethers and like gives speeches or something. She is the kind of political figure that I think that they would enjoy because she too likes chaos. She wants to bring down the Western world. That's quite clear. Also, they would probably attack their own members if anyone didn't like Ilhan Omar because she's a non-white female who practices Islam. So, she's basically completely off limits. Even Antifa has some degree of understanding of optics because, they get Soros strategy money. They know better than to randomly punch out a House of Representatives member who happens to be one of the far-left main communistic mavericks of the Democratic Party. They know better than to do that. Most of them are probably fans of her. They certainly like AOC and people like that. I mean, what's the fucking difference? Name a difference between Ilhan Omar and AOC ideologically, like where they've sparred with one another. I call it the Gang of Four for a reason, along with Rashida Tlaib and then that other insufferable individual, Presley, or whatever the hell her name is. So yeah, you probably have a person in the House of Representatives who is milling about, at least briefly, with Antifa members at an impeach Drumpfler rally. This should probably give the people of Minnesota a little bit of pause. Check out the video yourself. If you think it's actually them, you can weigh in the comments. Always a good decision to participate a little bit. By the way, probably helps with YouTube algorithms at this point, or BitChute algorithms, or whatever. Spread it around, too. I mean, mine video, obviously, but also the source video. That's about all. Peace out.